behalf of QSG, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. QSG is committed to providing up-to-date, useful, and credible information on the topics that you care about. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. These are difficult times for everyone, and we hope all goes well and we are back to normal soon. We thank the people on the front lines for their dedication and support of those in need. My name is Chris Skangas, and I will serve as your moderator for today's webinar. Today's webinar will be approximately 60 minutes in length. Jack will have a presentation, and then followed after that will be a question and answer session. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the chat function, and I will keep an eye on that and read your questions to Jack. Also, this is a small group as well, so feel free to unmute during that time and ask Jack any questions directly. So now I'd like to introduce you to the speaker for today. As the former Director of Quality and Continuous Improvement for the Goodrich Company, Jack has over 20 years of experience with Lean Six Sigma. Jack's industry experience also includes 5 years as Quality Manager and Six Sigma Master with Digital Equipment Corporation, and he has held senior quality management positions in high technology companies. He is a trained and experienced quality systems auditor. Jack is a certified Lean practitioner instructor, a certified Achieving Competitive Excellence, ACE associate trainer for United Technologies Corporation, and an experienced facilitator of Lean events and real-time problem-solving DMAIC teams. Jack is also a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and Yellow Belt trainer. Additionally, Jack has significant expertise in policy deployment, management development, and organization development. Jack holds a master's degree from Cambridge College, and he is trained as ACE Gold Assessor for UTC and a certified Lean Assessor for Goodrich. So thanks, Jack. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to you for today's presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. And again, welcome. Good Friday to everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. I've been excited about conducting this training and working with my clients with success training and now including COVID-19. And so excited to share this with you today. And one of the things that I want to make sure is clear in the front end here is this, because this is a 1-hour webinar, this is really an introductory to success and including COVID-19, and it's not to be considered an in-depth training by any means. But I think it'll be a good start. And one of the questions I would ask the participants today on the call is if you could kind of give me a few seconds of of an intro to the extent your company is using 5S or 6S. I'll open it up now.
This is Linda. I'm currently unemployed, so I'm doing this to further my skills.
Great, Linda. And have you ever worked with 5S or 6S in the past?
No, I haven't. I used to do continuous improvement, and then I veered into sales for 15 years. So now I want to get back to the profession.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Okay, then I'm going to continue and I'm going to continue with the notion that this again is introductory, and so I will treat it in that like. So first of all, what are we going to learn today? First of all, I'm going to define what success is. And I want to talk about success with the notion that in today's environment, we are dealing with a virus that is a threat to the safety of our employees in the workplace. And so we're incorporating COVID-19 into the success definition. And so I'm going to speak to that in detail. Then I want to talk about what we call Sustained Plus and related checklists and assessments that go along with success. These checklists and assessments, I'm going to really use the basis of my experience with both Goodrich and United Technologies, and also the use of these checklists and assessments with my own clients today. Also, I want to talk about managing the tracking of performance from a success perspective. And so this will be what we'll cover during the course of this webinar. Appreciate it if you could hold the questions to the end so I can get through the material. But if there's something really sparking your interest and you feel the need to jump in there, then by all means do that. All right, going forward, let's define success, the 6S. And it's basically a systematic approach for productivity, quality, and safety improvement. It really comes to us via the Japanese disciplines for maintaining visual controls in the workplace. Specifically, the Toyota Motor Company was really initiated the notion of 5S way back in the 70s and the 80s, and have been proponents of 5S as part of their lean activities. You can see on the screen here the 6 S's in terms of Japanese. I'm not going to discuss the language here, but really in translation into English, we're talking about sort, set in order, or straighten and is often used instead of set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. And the 6th S is really safety. And today, more than ever, I think we need to consider safety number one when we talk about 6S and implementing 6S. With the notion of how we can make the workplace a safe place for people with the notion of COVID-19 as a threat to the health and safety of our employees. Why do we create a success culture? First of all, from the Japanese point of view, clutter is something that is not only wasteful, but it creates an environment where we cannot see where waste lives. And so by eliminating clutter in the work environment, we're able to see waste as it is. And waste from a lean perspective oftentimes comes to us in the form of excess inventory. From a lean perspective, you only need the inventory necessary to meet the customer demand. And so by the elimination of clutter, we can see waste more clearly. If you've got in your workplace the tools and parts that you need, they need to be where they're supposed to be. You want to make sure that all the tools are lined up where they need to be so you can easily grab them and find them. And the same thing goes for parts. And so it eliminates walking around to find stuff. And this is not just in a manufacturing environment. You'll see that this is also true in just about any business environment. And I'll take the example of a dentist's office. If you notice as you walk into the dentist's chair, you'll see everything is lined up, ready for you, sanitized, as we hope and expect, but it's all there. Everything is there where they're supposed to be, so that you're eliminating the walking around to go finding things while the patient is sitting in the chair. Keep tools and parts at point of use, and immediately accessible. Again, reducing walking around. Waste is motion, and so we want to eliminate that particular waste. Working in an area that is safe is also part of that success culture. And we want to reduce injuries and lost work days, which are very costly. Injuries, of course, happen, but we want to be reducing the opportunity for any injuries in the work area. And also, probably one of the biggest things that I find is that customers, as they walk into that work environment, in a 5S or 6S environment, they get this very strong impression that this is a controlled environment, a place where perhaps I want to do business. And so these are good reasons for having a success culture. So let's get down to it. What are the successes? And so the first up, we believe strongly that first S has to be safety. Maintaining that safe work environment. And so that's number one. Number two is sorting, straighten or set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. I'm going to talk about each one of these and what they mean. One thing I do want to mention, as the note on the slide indicates, 6S is part of the Lean initiative, and any Lean activities or initiatives that I've been associated with, the first thing out of the box is that you want to initiate 6S, and you can get to the other cool things about Lean later on. The first thing you need to do is implement 6S. So with that in mind, oh, by the way, I did want to mention that after we do an introductory training on 6S with all of the workers, usually what I like to do is to then start things off with a 6S workshop where we really focus on safety, sort, straighten, and shine to establish that culture, teach people what safety, sort, straighten, and shine is all about in their work area. And we're starting to build into the DNA of that work area, the thinking about safety, sort, straighten, and shine. Starting off with safety. Let's focus on any kind of hazards. And here we're looking at any hazardous waste that you might find in the work area. Oftentimes they find trip hazards, anything that might be stored on a shelf, high on a shelf, that could fall on people are examples of some of the hazards that we look for. Also looking for fire extinguishers and how accessible and visible they are in the workplace. Thinking about setting preventive controls in place to keep the area safe. Doing a risk assessment for safety is one of the first steps out that we want to be looking at. And then putting those preventive controls in place to eliminate or mitigate those risks. Other considerations, as I said, trip hazards, safety shields for eyes, and for injury of the extremities. I find this is true a lot of times in machine shops where people need to wear safety glasses if projectiles are likely to occur coming from the machines. Also, putting up shields where people are feeding the machines with raw materials to assure that there is reduced risk that a person could be sticking their hands in where where you could lose a finger. And so looking for ways to prevent those injuries from happening. Finally, when we're looking at in a COVID situation, we have to consider the virus prevention. And so establishing protocols and putting them in place and assuring that all workers are following those protocols. sort is basically looking at your work area and looking to identify the needed and unneeded items. The needed items should be that which you need to use to either build product or provide a service to your customers. Those items that are there that are really unneeded need to be separated from that work area. And so what we do is we create a red tag area for the unneeded items. And we move that or place that red tag area away from the work area. And so that it's very visible where this red tag area is, and we have the right people who can go there and make a disposition decision as to, do we scrap these items? Do we throw them away? Or is there an opportunity for us to sell any of the scrap or this unneeded items? Is there someplace else in the workplace where this item could be used? So basically, at the end of sort, only the needed items are in the area. Straighten or set in order. This is basically identifying where all those needed items, where do they need to be in that work area? And when we consider where they need to be, we want them to be easily visible and easily accessible. And so what we do is oftentimes we come up with solutions such as shadow boards and shadow boxes. A shadow board, for example, is where you could take I've seen clients basically put up a plywood board, and any of the fixtures or any of the tools that they need, what they're going to do is they'll take that tool, put it up on that board, and highlight it or darken a shadow behind that tool so that you can see the shape of a tool, whether it's a hammer, for example, or a screwdriver, and you can see the shape of that tool, and that's where that tool belongs. And so you hang that tool right there on that board. So that would be an example of a shadow board. A shadow box is basically where somebody might put their tools in a toolbox. You open up the drawer, what you would find in a shadow box is perhaps a styrofoam piece of material where they cut out the shape of the tool. And so that is where the tool belongs, right in that indentation there. And you can see where if it's not in there, in that drawer, you know that it's either in use, and that you'll have to make sure that you put it back into the drawer after you're using. Labeling those drawers or labeling those boards or wherever you're placing those needed items is also a part of this activity for straightening or setting in order, and making sure that everything is at point of use. Again, you're trying to eliminate the motion of having to walk to and get the tools that you need. Preferably, they're all within reach. Shine is keeping the area neat and clean. Here we're looking at the floors, the machines, the cabinets, the shelves, desks, and workbenches. So if you're in a manufacturing environment, then you're looking at making sure that the floors are cleaned, perhaps on a daily basis. Machines are done cleaned out at the end of every day or shift. When you're looking at cabinets and shelves, making sure that they're orderly, they're clean, that there's not a lot of dust, and then the desks and the workbenches are cleaned off. In the business area, where they're in the office area, the same thing goes on the desk. That the desk is clean. Doesn't have coffee cups hanging around that are 3 days old. You just want to keep a nice clean desk area. The area around the desk is clean. The floor is desk. The wastebasket is emptied. So these are things that we consider when we're looking at shine. Standardize is basically the whole notion of standardizing the culture of success. And so here at this activity, we're trying to create perhaps a cleaning checklist for shine. And here we'll have the employees develop this particular checklist. I've got a couple of examples I'm going to show you in a second. But typically what I like to do is have the employees in the area develop their own cleaning checklist, test it out for a few weeks and make improvements, and then set up a schedule as to who's going to do or complete the checklist this week, rotate the responsibility so that everybody gets involved. And oftentimes, if, for example, you need to complete the checklist on a daily basis, at what point in time do you do that? You want to create a visual workplace to encourage the whole culture of success and the norms. So here we're also talking about putting up posters or using the video monitor to flash reminders to people as to how important it is to maintain safety, sort, straighten, and shine. Then the goal here is to make safety, sort, straighten, and shine a habit in the work area. So that's what basically our objective is for Standardize. Here's an example of a success area checklist. Actually, one that one of my clients built within the last 6 months. And this is one that where we look at what are the things we need to be doing on a daily basis and what are the things that need to be done on a weekly basis. And you'll see this checklist in the work area. It typically is either on a visual board where it's displayed so it's easily seen by everybody. Daily items like sweeping all the areas, putting tools back where they belong, checking the coolant levels and the oil levels, clean up metal shavings out of the machines, cleaning up the personal trash during and end of the workday. And then from a safety perspective, they added trip hazards, the elimination of trip hazards, and making sure the fire extinguishers were visible and accessible. On a weekly basis, in this particular case, this client would have they would bring their trash to the dumpster on Thursdays. There's a red tag area that they established and make sure that red tag area is cleared. That's one example of where we can develop red tag areas and put all unneeded items, but the whole notion of dispositioning those items and moving them out is another key area or aspect of the standardization. We want to make sure that the red tag area is constantly cleaned out. So this is one of the things that this group did. Mopping the floors were required, cardboard containers closed, and nothing is stored on the top of cabinets. So basically what people do is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I would be looking at the operator who's responsible for the checklist for that particular week would initial each of those boxes on Monday, going on down the list for the daily, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And on the weekly, typically on Fridays, the weekly items were conducted, and I would look for the initials for the Friday weekly items. Any comments that people identify should be written in on the comment section. And at the end of the week, I would have the supervisor initial and date each of those items. There's a reason for this, and that is you want to make sure that management is committed and also involved in shine in the work area. And so using the success checklist and making sure that everybody is following it. This is by putting the initials, the supervisor's initials, you are assuring that that is taking place as well. By the way, this is as I said, the employees in that work area develop this particular checklist. What happens is, from a safety perspective, is that individual work areas may have different types of safety issues or risks. And so what the workers will do is they'll add to this list any additional safety items that they feel are necessary. Here's an example of a 5S checklist, and this is not one that is typically used, but one client used this approach and where they broke it out in the sort, straighten, and shine category. Certainly, if they were using a 6S instead of 5S, they would have had a safety category as well. But I just show this as yet another example of how you can use a checklist in an area. Sustain is basically the whole notion of trying to make sure that that we're able to keep the commitment, keep the culture of success sustained throughout the work area, throughout the business, the facility. And so here's where management establishes procedures and protocols to sustain success. We establish regular assessments to create the success culture. And these assessments are typically done on a monthly basis, but in some cases done on a weekly basis. We set goals for success achievement. So we want to track the performance month over month as far as how the assessments are going, and maintain success scorecards from the assessment, and watch for trends. And I'm going to show you examples of each of these in a second. Now, basically what we've done here is we've added safety and COVID-19 to the assessments for sustain. Given the fact that COVID is a real threat to us in our work environment, and we know that epidemiologists are warning us, you can read it in the papers, I think almost on a daily basis, that COVID's going to be around for months, if not years. Even though we've got a couple of companies that are working on phase 3 vaccine trials, they're still not going to be readily available for yet another year. So probably this time next year, we're likely to see, at least we're hoping to see vaccines being utilized and available to everybody at that stage. But it's still going to be a while before we see these vaccines available, and they're likely not to be permanent. So therefore, we'll be vaccinated probably on a yearly basis. So we can't control people's behavior outside of the workplace when it comes to social distancing and face covering, but we can control it in our workplace. And so that's why we need to incorporate COVID-related activities based on our business protocols into our safety and success programs. We do need to, as a business, maintain a clean and healthy work environment, and clearly employees want to know that the workplace is safe. And we read about this in the newspapers every single day. Is it safe to come back to the workplace? And so these are all good reasons why we want to incorporate COVID-19 into our safety protocols in their business and build it into the success process. So therefore, when we look at sustain, we incorporate a sustain plus approach, where not only are we using the 5S or 6S assessments, but we're also building in a COVID-19 assessment as well. We're going to conduct these assessments with a trained team, report and track the results of the assessment monthly, and get that information so that management can see the performance and set goals for performance within the workplace. So here, how do we get this done? Basically, what we want to do is we want to put in place a success assessment where we're going to identify a team of people to conduct the assessment. What I personally like to do is if I've got 3 areas, for example, that a business is going to establish success in those areas, I will basically get 1 or 2 people from each of the areas and start building that assessment team and start teaching them how to do an assessment. And the first assessment is considered the baseline assessment using a success evaluation form, and I'm going to show you that in a second. The team will conduct the success assessment, identify any areas where they could be problematic or they could be issues, and update the continuous improvement to-do list, what I call the CI to-do list, as needed. I'll show you what that looks like. Team members conduct them on a monthly basis and post the results in the work area so the employees can see the results of the assessment, and they can see the CI to-do list and any actions that are needed as a result of that assessment to improve the work area. Oftentimes, what we'll do is we'll use outside eyes to conduct the monthly assessments. And what I mean by outside eyes, it would be easy just to have people within the work area conduct their own assessment. When we get other employees from other work areas joining in on that assessment, those are the outside eyes. And so they will see things perhaps that those in the work area may not see. And so I strongly recommend that we always have outside eyes conducting the monthly assessments as well. The last thing is we want to track trends from a month-to-month basis on a line chart and post them on in the work area. So I'm a big proponent of a visual board, performance board, in each work area, so everybody is aware of how well the work area is performing. And in this case here, we want them to know how we're performing in that area from a success perspective. Here's an example of a 5S assessment, and this is a 5S assessment. It does not include the safety aspect. I've got a safety assessment that I add on to this. And I'll show you that in a second. But this is an example of a 5S assessment. You can see up in the top going across, you've got your sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. And this assessment is developed in a maturity model type of a format where a level 1 is really you're just starting out. Level 2 is where you're focusing on the basics of a success or a 5S culture and practices. Level 3 is making it visual, and so here you're really at a higher level of maturity than you were at a level 1 or a level 2, and level 4 is really making it consistent. So at level 3, it's visual. You will see some breakdowns every now and again, and people are actually attending to those breakdowns quickly. But at level 4, it's very consistent, day in and day out. The practices are in place. And at level 5, you're really, you've really prevented any backsliding from happening. Sometimes some people will call that the best in class type situation. I've yet to find anybody, any area, work area that achieves consistently a level 5 performance. And so here is an example where an assessment team, basically from a sort perspective, they shaded in the box under sort at a level 3, which is they've got an initial red tag activity in place. Unneeded items are in the red tag area and not in the work area itself. So they gave them they gave that particular work area for sort a level 3, but for straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain, you can see that they shaded in the boxes for level 2, and so that's where that work area is today. How we basically make these assessments is that you start off at level 1, read the statement in each of the boxes. If that is agreeable to everybody, that is not the case, but we want to look at level 2, and level 2 fits more of where this work area is, then we settle in on that area, on that level. If you go up to the next level and you know that, you know, maybe some of that is true, but it's not always the case in this work area, then you cannot adequately block in that level, level 3. It has to stay down at the level 2. But what we will do is we'll identify what needs to happen in that work area to get us to level 3. And those are the notes that the assessment team are making, so that when they turn to the continuous improvement to-do list, those actions are identified so that the work area can be working towards a level 3 achievement for those elements of the 5S assessment. So looking at this assessment and how this team scored this assessment, basically under sort, you can see that at level 3, they get 0.5 for points. And so at the bottom, down at the bottom where we total up the points for sort, you can see that 0.5, and going off to the right under straighten, a level 2, you get a score of 0.25. And for shine, 0.25, standardize 0.25, and sustain 0.25. You add up all of those points, and you can see where the total score is a 1.5. And that is where that work area is today. What we want to do is then put in place a continuous improvement to-do list so that we can improve the overall score for the next month. Here's an example of the safety and COVID assessment. It's done in a very simple way. Here you've got, by the way, this is a checklist that is developed by the employees for that particular company. And here's an example where employees are wearing face masks per the workplace guidelines. Employees practice social distancing per the guidelines. Hand washing areas and hand sanitizers are in place. Frequent cleaning and disinfection of the work area is conducted. Restrooms and break areas are cleaned and disinfected. Visuals related to COVID-19 workplace guidelines are posted. Engineering controls are in place to maintain high efficiency, use of filters. and ventilation rates, etc. Requirements for PPE is posted. I think now everybody knows what PPE means. Employees know where the nearest fire extinguishers are, and they're accessible, they're visible. Any eye washing areas are where they are located. Evacuation location is known and routes are posted. Oftentimes what you'll find is that when we're looking at creating a success environment, we want to create evacuation routes at various points in the work area so that people know exactly where they need to go in the case of emergency. So here in this case here, you've got an assessment rating from a rating of 0 to 5, 0 being just starting and a 5 being excellent. You got you got just starting, poor, marginal, good, very good. And so what the assessment team does is they go in that work area and they observe and they provide a score for what they're able to see during this assessment. Here you basically put an X in the box where it's appropriate for the rating. And similar to the previous assessment, at the bottom there, you're going to total the columns, and you can see that under the good ratings, there are 12 points, then 16 for very good, and 15 points for excellent. You run the totals for that, and that's a total of 43 points. And given that there are 11 items here on this assessment, you divide that into the 43, you come up with a total score of 3.91. So every assessment you want to come up with a final score for that month. As the note on the side, on the left-hand side indicates, you can add more safety items that are relevant to the business. So this is an assessment that, again, as I say, the employees develop and make it relevant to the workplace. So here's an example of a CI to-do list, a continuous improvement to-do list. We use this extensively at Goodrich Corporation. You could go into almost any facility, any plant, and you would see these work in use in all of the work areas. And what we're trying to do here is at the end of every assessment, we're going to find opportunities for improvement. So in the case of where your sort is at a level 3, what's it going to take for that area to go to a level 4? And for straighten and shine and safety, where they were identified at a level 2, what's it going to take for them to get to a level 3? Same thing with standardize and sustain. So those are what's it's going to take to get to the next level, or what we call opportunities. And so in this example here, it's a very simple example where they found clutter next to the grinder. The countermeasure is going to be to remove the old boxes, the coffee cups, and unneeded paper from the area. They identify who's going to be responsible for doing it, when it's going to get done, and then what you want to do is indicate what the status is, and you track the status of this to-do list on a weekly basis. And management really needs to be involved here and look to see that these items are getting done by the due date, and doing a lot of following up. And so this is a very simple form. You want to make it simple because the employees in the work area need to be responsible for completing the to-do list. So keep it easy. An opportunity, what's the countermeasure? The countermeasure is the solution, the activity that's going to be taken to eliminate the issue or the problem. You also need to make sure you have an identified person who's going to be responsible, and then when that's due, and then maintain a status. If it's open, it's open. If it's completed, it's completed. It's indicated there on the to-do list. By the way, one of the things that I like to do from both the assessment and as well as the to-do list, I like to keep things as simple as possible so it's easy to implement in the work area. The same thing goes with the checklist. I want to make sure that the checklist is also very easy to use for the people in the work area. So how do you conduct the assessments? First thing, the team needs, the first thing is you need to identify who the team members are going to be. Be mindful that you want to have some outside eyes as part of the team. And so the day where you're going to do the assessment, the team is going to go into the area to be assessed. Using the old approach in Lean that we call go to Gemba, go where the work is, and observe and see for yourself what's going on in the work area. And so what I like to do is for the first assessment, that baseline assessment, walk into the work area and I'll ask the people, what do you see? What's going on here from a success perspective? And what are some of the issues that you might see? What are some of the things that they're doing very well at? And just get people to start using their eyes and observing what's going on in that work area. And then they complete, by the way, I like to have them also take notes, many notes as they possibly can. I guess it's the auditor in me. Any notes that you take is basically your observed proof, if you will, that this is actually something I observed in detail, so that I can, when I get back to doing completing the assessment and writing up what needs to happen in the continuous improvement to-do list, I've got my notes that I can depend upon. Then we get back together in another room or another area to determine the ratings on the sheet, and total up all the categories as the sheet indicates, and come up with a total score, do the math for the overall score, and then basically we create a line chart or a run chart that we want to post that score for that particular month. So here's an example of the scorecard that you might see on the visual board in the work area. And in this case here, your 5S assessment is in orange, and in blue, the safety COVID score is indicated. And also you see in red, a line that says this is our goal. So everybody is trying to achieve a goal of a score of 4. And so here on this particular work area, you can see that from a 5S perspective, they are not there yet. They started at a very low point in January, but what I like to see is that upward trend. They're not falling back, they're moving forward. You can look at the CI to-do list and the activities and the closure rate from January, February, March, April, and May, and you can see that things are getting done. That's a good sign. Oftentimes, though, when I look at the trend charts, and I might find that we're starting to backtrack and the scores start to go back down, my first point is to go to the CI to-do list and see how we're doing there. And more than likely what happens is we're not finishing the actions on time. And so then you got to get into the coaching mode and to pull not only management but the employees together, and let's talk about what we're going to need to do to get back on track. We want to see a positive trend. From a safety perspective here, you can see that in April, they achieved the goal of 4, and even in June, they went above 4, which is good. That's what you want to see. This is the kind of progress that you want to see in the work environment. At any time when you start seeing backtracking, you want to see some real active problem solving going on that CI to-do list, and to get people back, the work area back on track. Finally, the last slide I've got here is key considerations. And this really just comes from me and my own personal experience in working with teams, assessment teams. When you choose an assessment team, you got to really be careful about who you're selecting. And if you look at the continuum line that I have there, all right, I kind of broken it down where on the left-hand side, somebody might say these guidelines just aren't strenuous enough. This is a person who is a real zealot on 5S and 6S and safety. They don't miss a trick, and they want to have extreme controls in place. On the other side, the right-hand side of the continuum, you've got somebody who say these guidelines are useless. I don't know why we're even doing this. It's a waste of time. In a workplace, you've got various types of people with different attitudes and opinions about 6S. I like to choose a sweet spot. I don't want the overly zealous person on my assessment team. I want somebody who really truly believes in 6S, but is not an overall control freak. But on the other hand, I don't want somebody who thinks the whole thing is a farce. So I'm looking for people who are believers and are people who are objective in their approach and respectful to people who they're going to encounter when they're doing the assessment, and can be fair and honest. I have personally found that who identify on the assessment team can make or break the assessment. And what I mean by that is the credibility of the assessment process has to be upheld. And so it really, to me, you really want to make sure you're thoughtful about who you put on your assessment team. That is it, folks. This is the content. As I said, it's an introductory to 6S. It's not an in-depth training. And typically when I do my training with 6S, I start off with an introduction to 6S, which is usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours of training, depending on the size of the group. And then what I do is I like to get the people rolling up their sleeves and engaged in 5S or 6S, and basically getting a team together to do the assessment, the baseline assessment, and teaching them how to do an assessment, and then following those assessments up with a workshop, a 4S workshop, which is the safety, sort, straighten, shine focus. And so we'll take 2 to 4 hours working with the people in the work area, and we're focusing on safety, sort, straighten, and shine in that work area. And typically that first workshop, the outcome of that is in fact a checklist, an area checklist for safety, sort, straighten, and shine. And that's all part of building in the training of 6S, is getting people, getting their hands dirty with it, learning from experience, getting an experience base, and practicing the 6S in their work area, getting it going. So I'm going to open things up to questions for now.
Thanks, Jack. Great presentation. I would just like to remind everyone that you can ask your questions through the chat, or you can feel free to unmute and ask Jack directly. I think I see that. Linda, did you just unmute yourself to ask a question?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to know what the biggest challenges are to implementing this, and then how large these work areas are that you do the assessments in.
Great. Thank you, Linda. there's a huge challenge to initiating a 5S or 6S in the work area in any company. And one of the things that I look for is in the introductory training, to the extent the employees are motivated or interested in 5S. And so I'm always looking for what the culture is in the workplace at that point in time. One of the things that I've been surprised about is over the years is the amount of motivation and energy employees have in establishing 5S in their work area or 6S in their work area. As one of the complaints, and I've been a part of many employee assessment, a climate assessment, and the things that employees complain about most is disorganization within the workplace and a lack of commitment on the part of management. And so when it comes to 6S implementation, I find that that's probably also true. And the lack of commitment on the part of management is one of the things that is really employees less so. Certainly you're going to find some employees who really don't care about a clean environment, and they just want to go do their work. But most tend to want to have a safe and clean and organized work environment, and they want to eliminate the waste that that all brings. So basically what I tend to do is for any of the workshops that I do with the employees in the work area, I might run the workshop from 8 to 11. And then at 11:15, I bring in the management team to do a debrief of what the team did. And I really do a lot of work with coaching the management on their involvement, their engagement on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. Hence, if I don't see, I will individually talk to area managers if I don't see their initials on the area checklist, daily and weekly activities. And I'll also talk to them about the lack of activity going on in the CI to-do list. Typically, it's the management involvement and commitment that I find is probably the toughest thing, Linda. And the coaching sessions to me are the things that the best thing I can do to work with them to get them involved and engaged. Without management commitment and engagement, you will not reach the sustainment level. Did I answer your question, or is there something more you were looking for?
No, that's exactly what I was looking for, Jack. Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Anything else?
Jack, I have a question that came to me from chat, and they would like you, they asked, what is the best way to start a 6S initiative in my business?
Okay. The first thing out of the box is again, you want to make sure that one, management wants to have wants to create a 6S culture in the business. And so what I tend to do is I will do an introductory training for management. And in that introductory training, it's a very straightforward conversation with management about the benefits of having a 6S culture in their business. And I'm having spent a number of years at the executive team level. The finances are always at the very top of the list of concerns from management's perspective. And so you have to break this down to dollars and cents. Why is it a cost benefit to incorporate 5S or 6S in that work environment? And so I usually attack it from the waste perspective. And to me, being a person who tracked the cost of waste in my companies, which was usually at the $1 million level, it was really beneficial to incorporate a 5S or a 6S, as well as any lean activities to really address reduction of cost and improvement of profitability in the business. So I go after it from that perspective with management. I want them to get on board with 5S. And if that's the case, then it's pretty, once you've got them behind it, then it's just starting to conduct the introductory training. I like for the management team to put the plan in place as far as how we're going to do it. I will certainly suggest ideas, but it's got to be their plan, their implementation plan on their schedule and with the people that they want involved. And then we do the introductory training with all the employees, and then we start doing the what I call the 4S workshops, safety, sort, straighten, and shine workshops in conjunction with the assessments. And we do the assessments on a monthly basis, workshops to get things kicked off, and establishing the CI to-do lists, and start standardizing the practices in those work areas. That's basically how I've had success in implementing 5S and 6S in the work environment. Also, by the way, every tool you use, the assessments and the checklists need to be the ownership of the companies. It's got to be in their language. It's got to be relevant to them. And the last thing I'm going to say is keep it simple. If you make it complicated, people will not use it, and it will die on the vine very quickly. Keep it simple. Keep the language simple. Keep the tools simple.
Thanks, Jack. I want to remind everyone that if you have to step away because we were only scheduled until 12, that's perfectly okay. We got a couple more questions in, so we are going to continue on. So feel free to stay as well. So, okay. Jack, we have a question. Another question came in from Linda from the chat, and it's how large are these work areas?
Ah, good. She did ask that question. How large are the work areas? The number of my clients are 100 people or less. I've had some that are actually over 700 employees, but most of them are 100 people or less. So in the work areas, you might find 5 to 10 people in each of the work areas, and which makes it real nice to work with those teams. And it's not a large work area, and to implement 5S or 6S in those work areas is a lot simpler. And in those businesses, you might have a total of 8 or 9 work areas that will comprise of the employees, the 100 employees. However, in much larger companies, you will find the work areas will have many more of the people in those work areas. Certainly can be as many as 30 or 40 people in the work area. And so what we tend to do is we break up work areas into sub-work areas to make it a little easier, and to track each of those sub-work areas. But the overall work area gets a total score. So we basically will take the assessment scores and do an average. So if you've got 5 sub work areas, we'll take the sum total of the overall scores and divide them by 5 and come up with an overall work area score, but we'll also then indicate each of the other sub work areas on the trend chart, so you can see the performance in detail as needed. But that's how you would work on it with a larger group.
All right.
Linda, did I answer your question, or was there more that you had behind that?
No, you answered it. Thank you. I just was wondering how you segregate the work groups and how you figure out what work groups to use. So
Yeah, I really am a proponent of breaking it down into the simplest and the basic level as possible, and making it when you do that, the likelihood is that each employee gets a hand in the activity. If you left it at 20 to 25 people in a work area, I can almost promise you that there will be 5 to 10 people who will be ignored or won't have an opportunity to participate in 6S. And that's something you want to really be aware of. Break it into subgroups if you can, so that everybody gets a chance to participate.
thank you. And I don't know, I had one last question. The checklists and things that you used in this presentation, are we allowed to use those if we give you credit?
Knock yourself out. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
And also make it your own. Yeah, for sure. These are, by the way, are similar to what you might find in the public domain anyway. So, but I've used these checklists even at Goodrich and at UTC. There's nothing sacred about them. Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Anything else?
I think that's it, Jack, unless anyone else has any further questions.
Well, thank you all for attending. Thank you for the questions. I hope this was meaningful. And if at all, if ever you can, you need to call on us to help implement 6S in your business, we are always there to help. We're always there to lend support. It's what we're all about. Thank you very much, everybody. Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thanks. No, I just want to let everyone know if you have any further questions for Jack, you can email me directly and I will put you both in contact, or feel free to email Jack directly as well. I believe his email was on that first slide. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.